Hello, and welcome to The Money Trench, the music industry podcast with me, Mark Sutherland. Well, we've made it to our 100th episode, and I said it wouldn't last. Thanks to everyone who's tuned in over the last 2 years, to all our guests, sponsors, and everyone who's helped along the way. It really is greatly appreciated. And thanks also to everyone who came down to another hugely successful TMT Tuesday showcase at the Victorian Dalston last week, held in partnership with our friends at Fierce Panda. It was a top night with brilliant sets from Opal Mag, Larlin and Gracie Friel, and a big industry turnout. The next one is on August the 18th. Check out the TMT newsletter and socials for all the details. The Money Trench is supported by SOUNDON. SOUNDON is TikTok's all-in-one music distribution and promotion platform for artists and labels. Go to soundon.global to find out more and check out the SOUNDON Track of the Week and the TMT newsletter. And the Money Trench is also supported by TIXEL, the honest ticket exchange and waitlist, helping artists own their audience and protect fans from touts. Go to tixel.com to find out more and check out the TIXEL Gig of the Week in the TMT newsletter. And we support Earth%, the music industry's climate foundation. Check earthpercent.org for all the details. And this week we're in TYX Studios, where we're joined by one of the most successful artist managers in the game. He worked for Indian major labels and previously ran YMU's music division, but now has his own management company and is helping to steer the likes of Take That and Katherine Jenkins to new heights. Please welcome the founder of Corduroy Artists, Mr. Chris Dempsey.
Hello, Mark.
Hello, Chris. Welcome to the show. How's your music week been?
It's been good. It's been very busy. I was away on a holiday last week, so whenever you kind of get back from a little break, it's always pretty intense. So the work builds up, but it's been great. Gig last night with Gracie, one of our artists, at your night, which was fantastic.
Yeah, you were at TMT Tuesday, and you're doing a podcast a day later. You'll be sick of the sight of us, but we were watching your client, Gracie Friel. She's brilliant, isn't she? Fantastic.
She is awesome. Yeah, she's fantastic. Yeah, we're very excited about her.
Excellent, what talent! And how does it feel to be our 100th guest on TMT?
I'm just wondering who dropped out.
Nobody drops out at TMT, Chris. You are first choice, obviously.
No pressure. I am honoured, absolutely honoured. I'm a fan of the podcast, and so I'm pleased to be here. And on your 100th episode, it's a hell of an achievement. Well done.
Well, thank you very much. But now let's see what the rest of the music biz has been up to with our roundup of the latest industry headlines. Our first story comes from Music Business Worldwide, which reports that over 50% of new music uploads to Deezer are now AI tracks. The streaming service says it was receiving over 90,000 fully AI-generated songs daily in June, up from 75,000 in April. Deezer says the songs, which it tags and does not recommend via its algorithm, account for between 1% and 3% of listening on the platform. Chris, are you worried about this flood of AI songs?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah,
That's quite resigned.
Well, because it's very hard, I think, for everybody involved to find a solution to this. I think it's a nightmare. I think that actually Deezer are trying really hard, and they've got some good tech to try and identify AI slop, a phrase that everybody seems to use, and to try and get it taken down off the platform if it's fraudulent. I think everyone is trying. What the aim has got to be is to remove the commerciality of it. I think flagging AI-generated tracks to an audience is very much a sort of a sticking plaster on it. I think that there will be a lot of audiences out there that are quite happy to stream mood music and don't really care whether it's got a real artist behind it or not. So, but I think that there will be a lot that will do care. So look, flagging it is important, but I don't think that's the solution. I think removing the commerciality of it is the bedrock of finding the solution, and that's very much tech-based, and it's very challenging to try and do that, you know. So yeah, it doesn't make it any easier.
So would you like to see the tracks completely demonetized? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that. Yeah. I mean, why not? If you're trying to sort of clamp down on genuinely sort of fraudulent activity that comes through AI generated tracks, then yeah, I think that's the only way. If there's no benefit to people doing it, no financial benefit to people, generating, and look, there'll be a lot of so-called artists out there that claim that they are artists and they're using AI to generate, and then that's the way in which they create, and I'm not denying them of that, but we've got a problem that we're trying to fix, and I think that we've got to take a very, not extreme necessarily, but I think we've got to take a very strong approach to trying to find a solution, or it's going to run away, which some would argue it already has.
Do you? It's only going to get worse, of course, as well. I mean, there's going to be more and more of these tracks.
Yeah.
Do you worry that it could crowd out sort of music made by humans just by sheer weight of numbers, almost?
I think that humans are interested in humans, and I think ultimately artists will still want to engage with music created by humans. And I don't think that will change, and they still want to buy into artists, into people, into their creativity. And I don't think that will ever change. I think it is more when you're trying to reach real mass markets, and maybe those more casual sort of music fans. As I say, if you look at the mood music playlist, that's always sort of one area that they're now overrun with AI music. So from that perspective, you can listen to a mood music playlist and you've got Max Richter on there and Ian Audi, and then you've got a load of other stuff that is completely AI generated. Yeah. So I think in certain genres, in certain ways, it is a massive problem and it is going to overrun. But I sort of have hope in humanity, wanting to, support humanity, and therefore I think that doubling down on all of us in the music industry on investing in the next wave of genuine human talent and human creators and artists with strong artist proposition is the way forward.
Good. Well, fingers crossed that turns out to be true. But our next story comes from Music Week, which compiles the music industry reaction to Andy Burnham's coronation as Prime Minister. A known music fan and former Culture Secretary, of course, Burnham is expected to be a music-friendly PM, with trade bodies demanding action on ticket touts, post-Brexit touring restrictions and the implementation of the Turn It Up music plan. Chris, are you excited about the new Prime Minister?
I don't know if excited is the word.
There'll be another one along soon.
Exactly. It's just a conveyor belt at the minute, isn't it? I think that we can be more encouraged that, from the creative industry's perspective, that someone like Andy Burnham is the new PM, who has in the past, shown a lot of support for the music industry and wider creative industries. So we can be encouraged by that a little bit.
Yeah, I saw him at the Silver Clefs where he was giving James and the Warden. He did speak like somebody who had actually listened and enjoyed music in the past, unlike certain politicians that do that sort of thing. But is there anything you'd like to see the government do from sort of to make your life easier in the music biz? Yeah,
I mean, they could reduce VAT on tickets for a start. If you look at look at all the other countries across Europe, I mean, they are often, in most of them, kind of less than half of the VAT rate that we have in this country. So I think that might not go down well with some people, because ultimately you're suggesting that we pay less tax as part of this. But I think that
they've reduced it on electricity.
Well, exactly, but
so it can be done.
I guess that they would argue electricity is more important to more people, and I understand that, and of course it can be done. And I think it's the I don't want to get too political, but it's having a longer term view with these things. And you look at Ireland. Ireland understands soft power, understands the investment in Irish culture and music being a part of that, and the schemes that they have. I mean, just look how many Irish bands are having genuine success at the minute. I mean, that's there's a reason for that, and I think that in the UK we used to be quite good at it. Exporting around the world and exporting sort of British culture in all its forms, and music being a big part of that. And I think we're not great at it now from a governmental perspective and a legislative perspective. And I think that if they start to make some genuine changes there and invest in creative industries and give people a break, they'll see genuine benefit. But it will take a minute.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you're right that other countries are better at this. Do you think the UK government takes music industry a bit for granted because we've always done well sort of without much help?
Yeah, I think they do. And as it's now become harder and harder for the UK to have to export and to break artists overseas. I mean, there's obviously had a little bit of success over the last couple of years. I'd hope it comes into sharp focus and that they actually start to give us a bit of help, and not just from an export perspective, but also from UK, from the live music perspective. We have this live trust with the fund that some of my clients have supported. I think it's about time that the government actually stepped up and acknowledged that. They're obviously charging VAT on that as well. So it's. Yeah. You're getting hit every. They're not giving the music industry any help whatsoever, and I think it's about time that they did. And I think some of the points that have come through in a very soft way to Andy Burnham from the BPI and from UK Music are great, but I'd like to see some real action soon.
Yeah, there's talk of a competition inquiry in the live music industry. How would you feel about that?
Yeah, there is with Live Nation. Look, as an artist manager, more competition can only really be a good thing. We're always looking for the best deals for our artists and the best partnerships. So I would always welcome more competition. I don't know the ins and outs of that. I've worked very well with Live Nation over many years, so I've got no idea whether what will come out of that inquiry. I would just encourage the CMA to look at it holistically and actually, rather than, they asked the music industry to sort its own house out, and so we did with the Music Venue Trust and the fund, and they're charging VAT on that, and they're sticking to the 20% VAT rate on tickets. So on live income, there's no help, is there? It's all kind of one-way traffic. So I would ask that, fine, CMA investigate, look at Live Nation, but, let's have a look at this thing a little bit more holistically.
Okay, well, there's some work for Andy Burnham to do from the sound of things, but our final story comes from Music Ally, which reports on an Apple Music price rise. It's the first hike since 2022, but unusually, Apple raised eyebrows across the biz by blaming the $1 per month increase on rising licensing costs, i.e. payments to music rights holders. Chris, your clients are amongst those rights holders. Do price rises mean more money for your clients?
No. Not that I've seen. I mean, it's a bit mad, isn't it?
It should make the pot bigger, shouldn't it?
Well, it's a bit mad for Apple Music to come out publicly with that. I mean, effectively, they're blaming the artists.
Yeah.
They're the rights holders, the very people whose sort of music sits on their platform and generates their income. I mean,
yeah, it's a strange move, especially from Apple. Do you know what I mean? We're not used to Apple doing this sort of thing.
No, it's a bit wild, that one.
Okay, what do you make of it? Is there something going on behind the scenes there? Do you think, or?
I don't think so. I think they just, I guess the negotiations probably were a little tough, and they've decided to make their feelings known. But ultimately, that is directly and indirectly strong words towards the artists that sit on their platform. Artists and songwriters. It's not, the people they're negotiating with represent those artists and songwriters. They are not the artists and songwriters themselves. So that's who they're directing that at, and that's probably not the. As I say, it's quite surprising.
Yeah, I mean even with the extra £1, the subscription rate for all the music that's ever been recorded in the history of time.
It's not bad, is it? It's not a bad deal.
Still a sensational deal, isn't it?
It's not bad.
Yeah. Certainly compared to some of the other streaming platforms, etc., out there. So, would you like to see things go up further? It still seems really cheap to me, music streaming.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's very difficult, isn't it? Because we've all got subscriptions to 2, 3, 4, 5 streaming platforms when it comes to visual medium. We've all got Netflix, Amazon Prime, Sky, whatever else, I mean, it's never ending. Disney. So I understand it works in a very different way, and I think that it'd be interesting to see maybe going forwards whether actually that model might actually start to apply a little bit, because it's always been a exclusive content on platforms was, up until sort of fairly recently was a bit of a no-no. That's changing. So I'm wondering if we might start to see more exclusive content sitting on certain DSPs and not other DSPs, and being part of a direct deal, whether that's, I know Amazon do things like that with Amazon Original. But I wonder if we might actually start seeing certain artists partnering with DSPs and actually putting all their eggs in one basket. I mean, it's a little difficult because it is all out there, and pretty much the same catalogue is available on every single DSP. But I do wonder if we might start seeing the model kind of mirror what's happening in video streaming.
That would be interesting. Do your artists make enough money from streaming?
I mean, define enough.
Well, do you think they're getting as much money as they should from streaming, given that you've got some very successful artists?
You know what? I'm not that focused on it, Mark. Genuinely, I am very focused on audiences. And, we as a management company very much audience obsessed. And a lot of that comes from, and loving live and having artists that where a lot of their business is centered around touring and live. So I see, it depends on the artist. I used to manage James Arthur, James's streaming business, was insane. Live business actually is really good as well. But I think every artist is different in terms of their focus, whether it's live or streaming or brand income or, I mean, I think it's a little fragmented now. And I think that's quite exciting as well in some ways. They can all sort of support each other in different ways. I think that, look, releasing new music is absolutely vital, and the catalogue for all kind of my artists on my roster, it's massively, massively important. But do I think that, enough money is coming from streaming to support them? Well, we all want more, don't we? I do look at the thing in the round, really, and I focus on, just making sure that the commercials for all my artists are there wherever that the audience is, where the audience is engaging, and wherever that commercialization happens. And if streaming's a really important area, then we look at it, and if live is, we focus on that.
Fair enough. Well, thanks, Chris. And don't forget, for even more music industry insights, sign up for the TMT newsletter at themoneytrench.com. But now it's time to talk to this week's guest, Chris Dempsey of Corduroy Artists. Chris, you've just come off the road from Take That's the Circus tour. How was it?
It was amazing. Yeah, it was. I think it went. I don't know if better than expected is the right phrase. It was. I don't think anybody had ever done what they did, which is bringing back, I guess, an iconic show, an iconic tour. That's something that happens more in theatre and not really with kind of rock and pop shows. And so it was kind of a bit of a first. And so no one really knew how that was going to play out. There was a certain element, a bit of updating of the show, not too much, but we definitely improved and upgraded and in a few different areas. And it was because we knew it was so loved. Again, you just never quite know how people are going to receive it when, you said it's immediately going to be compared to the original show in 2009.
Yeah, well, I saw the show at London Stadium, saw you there, in fact, and people certainly seem to be enjoying it, I think it's fair to say. But you put out some stats this week. 17 stadium shows, 750,000 tickets sold, streams up 100%, 100 million social views. They broke Amazon's live stream record. Those are actually pretty phenomenal numbers for a band that's been around as long as Take That have, hasn't it? This is sensational stuff.
It's pretty good. It's as I say, it's gone well. An enormous amount of hard work has gone into this. The band are just incredibly driven and hardworking. Everyone around the show, from the creative genius that is Kim Gavin and Chris Vaughan, our production director. I mean, these guys are the ones really putting that show together. It's quite something. And then with our team and extended sort of agencies and label teams and of course Simon Moran, our promoters. You put genuine focus and you work smart, and you can achieve things. And but ultimately it's down to Take That, and it's down to the show. It's just connected with so many people, and it's allowed for so much of that to happen. It's kind of also the most Instagrammable show ever. But in 2009 there was no Instagram, and I think that was sort of revolutionary. We went back when we were putting developing the show, looking at go and watch the original, and you see like the odd person holding up like an old digital camera, and of course now it's a sea of phones, and so it feels like it's sort of had a bit of a cultural moment in that respect, and it's really connected with people emotionally, and that's the thing I really take from it. It was quite emotional. It really was. When it opened up on that first night in Southampton, yeah, I definitely had something in my eye at some point. It was special. So it's been a great achievement, and everyone's a little sad now because it was a good run. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of talk this summer about some tours not selling and things getting cancelled and stuff. So what's the secret to keep getting bigger?
I don't know if there's a secret. I think, it's hard work, focus, make the right strategic decisions from a career perspective, not just on this tour and the show. And, there's no silver bullet. In most areas of the industry now, I don't think there's a silver bullet. I think it's just about being really intelligent, really smart, work with the right people, make the right decisions. This show is very different, where so many other artists, and I understand why, are big screens and they invest in content. And this was very much a show about people and human creativity, and massive cast and dancers and circus performers. So and I think that was probably really noticed and appreciated by audiences. That it felt different. It felt like this human connection, back to the old AI conversation. So
except this time it was on Instagram, but
well, sure, but that's an amplification of what's happening. So I don't think there's a secret. I think it's just it was an amazing show in 2009, and it's been an amazing show this year. Awful lot of hard work gone into it by so many people. Made the right decisions, and it's landed well.
Fantastic. As you say, you support the grassroots levy, so that is £750,000 going into that fund. A pound off every ticket. Was that important to you to do that, or to the band?
Yeah, important to the band. And I think a little different. They came through in a different way. They were playing in clubs,
schools. Yeah,
exactly. They were playing school assemblies in the morning and gay clubs at night. It was that was so. But those venues were vital for them as much as Water Rats and Spit and Sawdust kind of rock and roll venues are vital for rock bands. So it was important to them. I mean, we've seen over the recent years a lot of clubs closing, as well as we've seen a lot of venues closing. So yeah, it's really important to them.
Yeah. There's a lot of big acts still don't do the grassroots levy. Why do you think that is? It seems like a no-brainer from the outside.
Yeah, I understand. I know that Live Nation haven't bought into it. I know John Giddings is not keen. He was on here and with his views on it. It's a subjective thing. I think that we think is a good thing to do, and I understand the argument for people who prefer not to do that. We felt it was important. Yeah, just to help out. I think pass it back down the line to help those venues and promoters and artists make that step up in a pretty challenging times.
Okay, fantastic stuff. Well, hopefully more people will get on board. But let's talk about Take That, because we used to assume boy bands, they're not boys anymore, I guess, but had a shelf life. I mean, that was sort of built into the model, really. That does not seem to be the case with Take That, does it? Why have they endured where so many others have fallen by the wayside?
I just think they're incredibly talented and driven, and I think that they've always looked forward. Whenever we've done something a little bit retrospective or nostalgic, it's always been, we have a bit of a mantra, which is we look back to look forward, whether that's a Netflix doc or this circus tour, we've been releasing 2 singles throughout, the first half of this year. We've got an album coming at the end of this year. It's always a look back to look forward. And they're great songwriters. They, all 3 of them. Gary in particular, he's very famed as a songwriter, and he is absolutely brilliant. Mark and Howard, also great songwriters. And I think that they have an enduring catalogue. They had a very strong catalogue just from the 90s, and then obviously they've added that from 2006 onwards, and they just keep going. And they're just, they're one-offs in that respect. They invest in their live shows. I mean, again, they've always done that. That's not a new thing, just on this circus, the reboot of the circus tour. They've always invested in putting on great events and great shows. And I think that's what resonates with audiences and it's helped give them a long career.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. And so you've got a new record coming. Do you think the Netflix doc has helped them reach a new audience? Because your streaming numbers are up a lot, aren't they? Which would perhaps suggest that people are listening to them that maybe weren't in the recent past.
I think it all helps. Yeah. Netflix, the tour itself, and the content that came off the back of it. I think maybe the audiences, perhaps some of the older sort of elements of Take That's audience moving across to streaming. I think we've put a real focus over the last 5-6 years, and even longer than that, on growing things internationally, really post-COVID. As soon as we could get back out there, we've toured a lot. We've taken the sort of long route to international success in terms of getting out and really engaging. In 2024, the band played 91 shows, and it's the most shows they've ever played in a calendar year. So I think it all helps. I think it's just being open and hungry for those opportunities, and just going there, going to places, going to see. So I think, again, no silver bullets. I think just working hard across all kind of verticals of an artist's career to engage audiences. And yeah, it's been great. I mean, even the Amazon Prime thing, I think really that was brilliant. It was fantastic to have that as a global live stream on the tour. That really helped as well.
Yeah, and records, they keep making records, which I guess not all bands that have got back together bother doing, don't they? How important is that to the band these days? That they
massively. It's who they are. They're songwriters, and this is this is what they do. And I'm not sure they'll ever stop. They love it. They love making records. They love making records together. They love writing together. Love writing separately, individually. This is who they are. Gary always says, if he's ever asked what his trade and profession is, he'll always say, "I'm a songwriter." They love touring. They love performing, and it's the whole ecosystem of album and touring is inbuilt in their DNA, and they just love it. So and they're good at it, and they've got a few number 1 records under their belt, and so this will be their 10th studio album at the end of this year. So yeah, it's a big one.
Okay, nice one. And they've moved over to EMI recently. Do you think about doing things differently? Because I guess the debate about major labels these days is whether a band with such a massive fan base as Take That would necessarily need a major label.
It's a bit of a leading question, Mark.
That's how we like to do it.
I think it's tough for majors at the minute. I think all labels. I think everyone's trying to find that secret sauce of how to break artists and how to, make things work commercially. And I think that they are changing or tweaking and finessing their setups internally at majors and how they approach any artist, whether it's a brand new sort of, development act through to, more established artists like Take That. And I think that there's always room for, I'm always open to working with labels. I think that on the This Life record, I have to say, which is our first record with EMI, they were brilliant. They were great. And even prior to that, Polydor were fantastic. Great run with them from 2006. So I think it's constantly changing, and the majors, you can see how they're constantly changing and really embracing label services and distribution. So there's going to be lots of options open to bands like Take That going forward. and we'll assess those as as those moments come up. But yeah, I mean, us as I'm not the only one out there, but as managers, we're building teams within our management setups that allow us to fulfill a lot of roles which, maybe traditionally, historically were the label's domain. So yeah, we're all gearing up to be able to do things ourselves, and in some ways, we already are taking on, an awful lot more than we did previously. But I also really love that. I think that as the manager is, and the management team are the closest to the artist, and it's really exciting then when you can have some real genuine influence and help to shape and guide even more directly the record side of things, But I also absolutely love working with the label teams. They EMI have been fantastic. They really have. So we'll see going forwards. All options are always open for all acts. And it's just a constantly changing landscape. So yeah, ask me in 6 months and, might get a different answer.
Great. We'll get you back then. But no, you were not the manager of Take That when they started, obviously.
No.
Does that make it easier or harder to be their manager?
God, I've no idea, really. I mean, I'd never really thought of that. I mean, look, Nigel Martin Smith put the band together. He said he was going to put together UK's answer to New Kids on the Block, and he did it, didn't he? So, what an amazing job, And then my predecessor, Jonathan Wild, oversaw that incredible run from 2006 up until 2017, So I've never really considered whether it's an easier or a harder job. I think that I love working with a band now, as with all my clients, and is it easier or harder? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, you obviously have a great relationship with them. What's the secret to a good artist-manager relationship for you?
Honesty, shared ambition, drive, support across everything. From more personal side of things through to we are the chief strategists. I also love being that. I love that role. And trust, obviously, and I think that, I try to do that with my team, and it's to make sure we're always building that trust. That's the same for any manager out there, really. Being opportunistic, open-minded, we're very focused, as I mentioned earlier. We strategically develop careers and build audiences, and that's really at the bedrock of the way in which we approach things. And I'm really proud of the part that we've played with managing Take That for the last 9-10 years, doubling their ticket sales. Katherine Jenkins, a tour we just put on sale a few months ago. It's her fastest selling tour in 15 years, and we work hard for these, to have these, to achieve these things, and ultimately you've got to be successful. That's what kind of keeps you employed.
That always helps.
Yeah. But that again, it's trust. Having a great plan and strategy, and I also, this is probably often doesn't get talked about enough. I love the music that my entire roster makes. I'm so passionate about everybody from Gabriella Chilmy to Katherine to Gracie Friel to Gary and Take That, and we are really invested in it, in that for every step of the way. So yeah, you gotta love your artists and love their music, and I think that we really do, and that shines through in the way we approach it.
How often do you disagree with your artists?
I don't know how often, but I think that not being afraid to challenge is a really important part of being a really effective manager, and we do, and it's there's an art to how you do that, and yeah, there are ways in which you can have those kind of difficult conversations, and there are ways not to have those difficult conversations, and that's kind of, again, why good managers exist, is to be able to do that and to try and guide things in what we feel is the right way, So we're never afraid of difficult conversations, but how often do we disagree? I don't know, but it's that it comes back to trust, doesn't it?
Yeah, fair enough. And you mentioned the sort of changing role of the manager, and you're working with new artists as well as established ones. It's really difficult to break artists at the moment, isn't it?
Nice, dead easy.
Oh, okay. Great. How do you do it?
It is, it's never been harder, has it? Yeah, I think again it's about being really focused. I think it's digging in for the long haul, which we do. It's been able to support in many different ways an artist's career from the beginning, and it's it's taking time, and thankfully there's a lot of very recent examples of big global stars that have taken 5, 6, 7, 8 years to break through, and so I think that's helped to give everyone in the industry a bit more of an understanding of that. So maybe there's a little more patience generally, and that does help. We kind of have very bespoke plans, and we're constantly evolving and developing those plans for our developing artists. But it takes time, and I think that's probably the most important factor is be prepared to dig in for a few years.
But that's a big investment for a manager, isn't it? Because if an act is not really making money for 5 or 6 years, then it's a long wait for your 20%, isn't it?
Yeah, well, don't do it then. If you're not willing to, it's that's where the market is. So if you don't want to do it, don't do it. But I love working with developing artists, and will always go that. We'll always have. I always want to have sort of 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever the number is of developing artists on the roster. I think actually it keeps us sharp as managers, as a team. I think that you're exposed to different ways of working, different areas of the industry, different ways of finding audiences, and I think I learn all the time from our developing artists as much as I do from our established talent.
Fantastic. Well, let's talk about you and how you got started. Was you actually a musician yourself to start off with, right?
Musician's a strong word, but yeah.
Were you in a band?
I was in a few bands, yeah. They're not on YouTube, and I'm not telling you the names just in case they are.
Fair enough. And then, like all the best people, you became a journalist. You had your own music.
I think journalist is also a strong word, but I started a little music magazine. I did a degree in music business at the ACM, and while I was on that degree course, I saw a little opportunity for a music magazine, and we started that. It was around the time when The Fly was out. It was sort of it was kind of probably an even more alternative version of that, but we did well with that. And then we had a little label, Split Sevens label, different band on each side of a 7-inch record, a little sort of for some cool up and coming artists, emerging talent, and a couple of those artists start to get some attention, and Zane plays and things like that, and they got signed by Jeepster. And then I went to work for Jeepster for a couple of years.
Well done, not sticking with music journalism as a career.
It was definitely a passing phase. And I go back and read those old copies of Spill, and not the best journalism out there.
Well, you don't want to read some of my early stuff or my later stuff, probably either. But so you were working at Jeepster, which is like a fairly well-known indie label. What did you learn from that? Because you're sort of coming from one side of the fence to the other almost there, aren't you? Yeah,
I always, once I made that decision to, that as an artist I wasn't getting anywhere, and then I wanted to be on the business side of things, I always wanted to work at a record label. And so I was stoked when I managed to, land a job there. But there were kind of 2 of us who worked there. It was tiny, so you learn so much.
Into a Jeepster.
Well, yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I learned loads in 2 years. I was there for a couple of years, working on these new artists that I'd had on my little singles label. And, we didn't really manage to get them anywhere. It didn't really work, but we learned loads doing it. And then got to work on some Bell and Sebastian stuff and bits of Snow Patrol. Catalogue, which was really educational. And and then that led me to Sony and to Columbia, and then I had 5 years in the major world. So yeah, it was all great education, really.
Yeah, so one extreme to the other there, probably, in that, so you wouldn't have fit the Sony marketing department in the Jeepster, I'm sure, but you were working with some big acts there, right?
Yeah, I was, yeah. They took a leap of faith on me, I think. Genuinely, Mike Smith and, well, a few people, Joe Power, Angie Summerside, Lee Jensen, they, could give them all a shout out. They all interviewed me. There's quite a lot of interviews. And I think they were wondering, who's this kid? I think it was probably an era, sort of still exists a little bit now, where people sort of label jump and, move between all the different majors. And I was coming from this, no one knew who I was, and so there was a lot of sense checking. So yeah, a bit of a leap of faith, but then I was lucky enough to land in Columbia and loved my time there. It was great, worked with Ozzy Osbourne and Foster the People, some good stuff, some great stuff. I loved it. Yeah, it was great fun.
And you worked on the Manics, didn't you? Which ultimately led to a job with Martin Hall, right?
It did. Yeah, I love working with the Manics, and got to know Martin really well. And then, after I've been at Sony for 5 years, and I was managing a little band on the side, and he said, well, why don't you come and work for me? And I jumped at it. I said, yeah. At that point, I was sort of getting a bit frustrated, maybe, at just working on one sort of part of an artist's career, and was a great relationship with the Manics themselves, and so yeah, I loved it. It was great to sort of get out and then learn the world of management. And so I went to work for Martin. Yeah.
Well, Martin's a bit of a legend, obviously, but what did you learn from him?
There's probably not a I don't know, maybe a week or a month that goes by where there'll be something will happen. I'll be, what would Martin do? So I learned loads from Martin. He's very good with artists. He's he knows what he likes, and he's a brilliant manager. He really is, and I don't think he always gets the credit for that. But it's not a bad run, is it? The Manics and the Horrors, the Script, Wet Leg. Yeah. Still doing it. So yeah, I mean, I learned a lot from Martin. Yeah.
Fantastic. And then you started to build up your own roster within that company.
Yeah.
Was that an easy thing to do?
No, not first, but a couple of development sort of clients, and you're trying to break sort of things through, and then sort of lucky enough that ended up with in Gary Barlow, which was game changing for me. It really was.
How did that happen?
It kind of came through because we were part of the YMU sort of system, and there were I think there was a tip off to somebody that he didn't really have a manager, I think, at that time for his sort of solo stuff. And anyway, so we went in and we pitched, and a couple of great meetings with him, and then we sort of wanted him as a client, which was great. And then so I started managing him then, which was probably 10 years ago, and then pretty quickly take that game over. Yeah, had a sort of a good run for a few years there with them at YMU.
Yeah, well, you became MD of YMU's music division eventually, right?
I did, yeah. I had a few years working and learning from Martin, and then Ian Watt came in and worked for Ian for a few years. Ian, also a brilliant manager, learned loads from him and his team. And then I guess it was my turn to run the division there, which I did for a few years.
Was that did that require a different skill set to just sort of managing?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, again, I learned loads there. Just immediately sort of take that sort of role on in a it was a management division within a big agency, and there was a big US team, and it's a different skill set that and it's great. I really enjoyed it, but you learn a lot, and it comes with a lot of challenges, and a lot of finance meetings, all the things that come with being part of a sort of more corporate entity,
Yeah, I mean, it was quite cool. In fact, I think when I interviewed Martin, he sort of said that it was too corporate for him, and he couldn't sort of, handle it after a while. But did you find that, or did you like being part of a big company?
I liked it to a point, and then I sort of, I felt I wanted to go my own way. You sort of have a vision, you develop a vision of kind of what you think is a a great management setup for your clients and potentially for others. And you should reach a point where you think, well, the only way I'm really going to achieve that is if I back myself and do it myself. And so, yeah, that's what I did. I decided that I was going to go alone.
Was that a bit of a leap of faith, because you've got this nice corporate job, to go out on your own is a big step, isn't it?
It was, but you have those, moments in your life, and I'd been there a long time, and you just know when it's right, and you weigh up all the risks, you play out the worst case scenario, and then you go for it, and I just knew what I wanted to do. I was really clear, and felt that to achieve that I needed to sort of go my own way, and yeah, that's what I did.
Well, seems to be working out so far. So must have been a good move for you. But how do you see it developing, the company? Would you like it to be as big as YMU ultimately?
No, I think that artist management setups, and I think, need to be tailored to their rosters. I think I don't think there's a one size fits all approach, and I think that there is a way in which you can achieve a bit of scale and more services, build out bigger teams without having to go necessarily down a private equity funded model. And we're working on something at the minute. We'll see where we go with it. But there's been lots of things tried over the years. But I think that there is a potential model out there where you can, bring a bunch of management companies together and other associated businesses as well. So yeah, we're something we're having a look at the minute. I think that, as we were saying earlier, the sort of demands on management companies are sort of more than they probably ever have been. So we need to respond to that a little bit. And I think there's a way we can do that without having to maybe entirely sell your business in somewhere, or hand over half of it, or whatever it is that, and those models might be right for certain managers, and but I think there's another way, and yeah, we'll see. But no, we're not trying to. I'm not trying to sort of become the biggest management company in the world. That's not the objective. It's about being a really effective management company, and being able to remain entrepreneurial.
Yeah, I mean that sounds interesting. A lot of independent companies are getting bought at the moment, including management companies. How do you feel about that? Does that change the sort of the vibe of the sector, or is it still possible to be independent and make a difference?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, come on, look at some of the biggest artists in the world, and look at their management companies. Not too many of them are part of big corporate entities, are they?
No, true.
Coldplay, Ed Sheeran. Look at them, man. They're tailored operations, around those clients, and I think that's really important. So, and I think it's always difficult with management companies. I understand from independent rights-based businesses how you could. I get how you can scale that and you can acquire that. I understand all that work, how that can work easier. But with management companies, sometimes what are you buying? Relationships, trust. It's a more difficult thing, I think, to put deals around and to put working relationships around. Of course, it's not impossible, and it really does work for some people. There are ways in which you can do that, but we'll see. I mean, it's that there are many ways in which companies can grow, and we're working on something at the minute. See if there's a bit of a new approach, and we'll come back to you.
Okay, excellent. And would you like to have lots of acts as big as Take That on your roster?
Well, like the income.
Yeah.
Honestly, I come back to what I was saying earlier. I genuinely love all our artists as artists. I love their music. I love their creativity. That's at the bedrock of absolutely everything. We're not about trying to scale by just acquiring artists and having, but because they're big. It's not about that. It's about, are we the right management company for those artists. Can we add value? Are we going to make a difference? Have we got a real creative connection? They're the questions that you ask yourself before you start working with a new client. You got to stay true to those. Bring it back to Martin. Look at Martin. Yeah, he works with the artists that he loves and that he likes.
Fair enough. And Take That. Are there still things that Take That want to achieve? I mean, they've done so much in their career now. Are there still sort of things on the bucket list that they want to drive? You and they want to drive towards?
Yeah, I mean, they've said themselves they'd love to play Vegas.
Well, there was talk of a Vegas residency, wasn't there? Is there?
There's still talk of a Vegas residency. There's always talk of a Vegas residency. Yeah, we'll see.
Any progress on it?
Yeah, and we'll see. I think we're busy. There's a lot going on. So I think it's always about timing with these things. But yeah, it will happen. I'm certain it will happen. When, I can't say exactly, but I'm sure it will happen because it's a bucket list thing for the band.
Would you like to see them play Glastonbury?
Yeah, they've also said that. I think they'd love to. I think they'd be amazing on that Legends slot. I mean, it'd be incredible. But again, maybe that will happen one day. You never know with these things. It's they're sort of something like that. So it's sort of out of your control. You control the controllables a little bit. But I think they'd be incredible. I think they go down so well there. So who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, come on, Emily.
Yeah.
Give him a call. Let's make that happen. But thanks very much, Chris. Please stick around for latest or greatest, which is coming right up. And if you're enjoying the Money Trench, supported by SOUNDON and TIXEL, please give us a rating or review on your podcast platform of choice, as it really does help us keep making this podcast. But now it's time for our quickfire round with our guest, top artist manager Chris Dempsey. Chris, this is called Latest or Greatest. You can decide to talk about either the most recent or the all-time best music biz thing that you've experienced in these categories. And we start with the latest or greatest record that you've bought.
It's not that recent, but I bought this album a couple of years ago. It's by MJ Lenderman called Manning Fireworks. It's just such a great record. And I saw him in Berlin. I saw him play in Berlin last summer. And it's just a record I keep going back to, and so I probably have bought a record since then. I'm actually talking about buying a piece of vinyl, rather than just streaming. I'm really into really digging role model as well the last sort of couple of years, and I think he's got a new record coming. So but that MJ Lenderman Manning Fireworks is a great record.
Okay, excellent. I'm not familiar with that. I'm going to have to check that out. The latest or greatest gig or festival that you've been to?
When Strokes came and toured, Is This It? And I saw them at Brixton Academy. I know they'd been before, and I missed the really early shows, but I saw them at Brixton, and Headline Slothy came out, played for about 35 minutes, because all they had and left. No one was moaning. Everyone was like, it was brilliant. It was so good.
I mean, that was literally every song they had.
That's all they had, It was great, And famously don't really chat a lot between songs either, and they certainly didn't then. And it's great. What an amazing gig. Yeah, I loved it.
Okay. Well, yeah, short is sweet sometimes. So, yeah. Fair enough. Your latest or greatest music biz boss?
I mentioned Martin. So, yeah, probably Martin. Mike Smith, I mentioned Mike as well. Oh, there's so many, but probably, if we've got to pick one or two, probably Martin and Mike Smith, I'd say.
It's not a bad duo.
Learned a lot from both. Yeah.
Yeah. What makes Martin such a good manager, do you think? Because he has been doing it for a long time, hasn't he?
God, his podcast's all about mine.
There you go, yeah. We'll have to get him on.
yeah, you should.
He doesn't like doing it. He did do an interview with me a while back, but I think it was the first one he'd ever done.
Yeah, he doesn't really like it. Calm under pressure, loves his artists, and really has a genuine love and interest in their music. Yeah, he's strategic. Maybe some people wouldn't necessarily think he is. He's actually very strategic. Yeah, he's a good manager.
Fantastic. And the latest or greatest mistake that you've made? Do you make mistakes?
No, of course I don't make any mistakes. There was one I did make, when I was at Columbia, I'd not long joined, and I did a Jakob Dylan record. Actually, I was the marketing manager for this Jakob Dylan album. Great record, actually. And this is before kind of sort of CRM rules were in place. And I remember speaking to the sort of Sony CRM team, and I said, "Oh, how big is Bob Dylan's database?" I can't remember what the number was, but it was obviously enormous. I said, "All right, can we just email them and tell them Jacob's album out?" And they said, "Oh, well, we have to get permission from management. Have you got permission from management?" And I went, "Oh, I'll get it." Anyway, I sort of completely forgot or whatever, and then it came to sort of like the day the album was out, the day before, and they said, "Oh, did you get permission?" And I just sort of went, yeah, it's fine. And of course, you can't do stuff like that. And I don't think Bob's team were that happy. And
did you have an angry phone call from Bob Dylan himself?
No. But his management and his US label were not happy at all. And do think it's probably Jakob Dylan's best-selling album in the UK. It worked.
Yeah. So Jakob was happy.
Yeah. So I mean, but look, you can't be doing things like that. But that was that. I mean, I'd not been there long. I thought, oh my God, I'm getting fired here. I've upset Bob Dylan. Jesus Christ, here I am.
It's a bold move in your first few months.
Cornerstone of the Columbia label, and within 6 months, oh, Jesus. Yeah.
Fantastic stuff. And the latest or greatest artist that you've worked with, you probably didn't get to work with Bob after that, but
no, I didn't. I mean, love our development clients, Bieber and Gracie Friel, as the kind of the latest. I have to mention them. But Gary is just an incredible artist to work with. He's just an unbelievable talent. He is hungry, driven, open-minded. He's, you feel like you've got a real partnership, when you work with him. And, it's hard not to, I couldn't mention anyone else apart from Gary. He's incredible. Yeah, he's a one-off, absolute one-off.
He does a lot of stuff, doesn't he? Because, I mean, Take That would be enough for most people, but he's got his solo career, he does theatre stuff, he's got a wine empire. Yeah, I mean, it sounds exhausting just managing it. Never mind doing it.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. It's there's. I think the best artists in the world have that drive, and he absolutely does. And he's excited by music. He's excited by new opportunities. He's excited by the wine. He's genuinely a wine fan. He really is into wine. And so when we sort of took that idea to him, he was like, God, yeah, I'd love to do that. Do you think it's possible? And, that's done incredibly well. So, yeah.
The latest or greatest music industry party that you went to, whether you were drinking Gary Barlow wine or not?
I mean, the latest, we had a great party at the end of the circus tour. It was a great night in O'Donoghue's in Dublin. It was our last show there, and that was a big night. It was a big night and great fun, and all the cast and the circus performers, the dancers, the band, the TT boys, of course, and it was just such a big celebration. That was a great night. Yeah.
Okay. Take That still like to party then.
Yeah, they were there till the early hours. Yeah.
Excellent work. And we can't let you go without giving us a new music tip. Is there anyone you're particularly excited about, new music-wise?
I've been really getting into a band called Slow Pulp at the minute. I don't know an awful lot about them, genuinely. But I think they're really talented, and I think they've put up a show at the Forum, I think, Kentish Town. So yeah, Slow Pulp, they're really cool.
Okay, excellent stuff. But that, sadly, is all we have time for. So a big thank you to our guest, Chris Dempsey of Corduroy Artists. Thanks very much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
The Money Trench, the music industry podcast with me, Mark Sutherland, is supported by SOUNDON on TIXEL and in support of Percent. It's produced by Take Notes and exec produced by Mike Walsh, with huge thanks to Sennheiser, the Fourth Pillar, and our friends at Deviate Digital for our social media. The Money Trench music is by the brilliant Tom A. Smith, and to get in touch with us, please email mike@themoneytrench.com. Thanks this week to TYX Studios for their beautiful podcast studio and facilities. TYX Studios provides premium podcasting studio facilities and production assistance right in the heart of London. Check them out at tyxstudios.com. The summer holidays are officially here, but the music industry never sleeps. It's the MMF Summer Party. The Mercury Prize shortlist is due. Camp Festival is on. And there are big gigs for Bruno Mars, the Costellos, Luke Combs, Nick Cave, Grace Jones, Summer Walker and the Kooks. And TMT continues to move in our own way with another brand new episode dropping on Monday, August the 3rd, starring another music biz legend who is anything but naive. We will see you then. Chris, thanks for sharing our 100th show with us, and see you again soon.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it.
Cheers.